There's a part of you that you've never shown anyone, not even yourself. That anger you swallow, the envy you disguise, the secret pleasure of watching someone else fall. Yes, that's you too. And as long as you keep pretending you're made only of light, you'll keep being ruled by the darkness without even noticing. Carl Jung warned us, what you don't accept in yourself controls you. And the more you try to repress it, the more you lose touch with who you really are. This video isn't about cheap positivity. It's not about forgiving yourself with empty mantras. It's about facing the darkest parts of you and finally breaking free. Because there is no life purpose without self-knowledge. And there is no self-knowledge without shadow. Want to change your reality? Then stop running from yourself and learn to dance with your monsters. Because right there, in what you fear the most in yourself, lives your real power. Now the question is, do you have the courage to look at yourself fully? Or will you keep living like a character, trying to please an audience that isn't even watching? If your answer is yes, then get ready. Because after this video, you'll never be able to hide from yourself again. And you'll never want to. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to point fingers, but almost impossible to hold up a mirror? Some people go around saying, that's just the way I am, as if that were self-awareness. But deep down, they're just running from themselves. The shadow isn't some mystical concept. It's everything you learn to hide just to be accepted. It's the anger you swallow with a smile. The pride dressed up as humility. The pleasure you take in control while pretending it's altruism. The shadow is what you can't stand to admit, but it leaks through the cracks of your mask. And ignoring it doesn't make you pure. It makes you a hostage, because everything you refuse to see ends up ruling you in the dark. And the unconscious, it never forgets. It just waits for the right moment to take over without you even noticing. Most people want to know themselves, but only up to the point where it doesn't hurt. They want self-awareness without confrontation, personal transformation without getting their hands dirty. But let me tell you something. You won't find yourself just by reading pretty books or listening to poetic quotes on Instagram. You'll find yourself the moment you dare to look at what you've always avoided. That jealousy you claim you don't feel. That emotional hunger you cover up with independence. That craving for admiration while pretending not to care. That's the shadow. And if you don't have the guts to face it with brutal honesty, you'll end up stuck in an internal war, wearing the uniform of goodness while bleeding on the inside. The shadow doesn't disappear just because you're a good person. It just goes silent and eats you alive from within. Want to take the first real step? Then stop running. Sit down with yourself and write. What am I most afraid to see in me? Don't worry about being fair, ethical, spiritual. Be raw, be honest, be human. This exercise will hurt. It might make you nauseous, confused, even angry. But that's how the integration of the psyche begins. Because as long as you keep pretending you're only light, you'll keep being haunted by your own darkness. And it's right at that exact point where you feel the urge to shut your eyes, that the real inner work starts calling your name. Looking within is easy to say, hard to do. Everyone keeps repeating that change starts with you, but no one explains what to do when what you find inside is pain, guilt, anger, or fear. Inner work begins exactly in that abyss. And it's not pretty or Instagrammable. It's sweaty, lonely, uncomfortable. It's when you realize it's not just the world that hurts you. You hurt yourself too. It's when it finally hits you that many of your most painful choices were made by you. Try to run from yourself. This kind of confrontation takes courage. Not superhero courage, but the raw kind that lets you sit with your own fear and actually listen to what it has to say. The kind of courage that lets you admit that behind your impatience lives a terrified child, afraid of rejection. That your perfectionism is really a fear of being unlovable, and that your pride, that armor you were so you won't bow to anyone, is just a shield to keep from feeling the pain of inferiority. This kind of revelation doesn't come from a 10-minute guided meditation. It comes from daily practice, from being willing to mess up and come back. Mess up again and come back again. Want a real exercise? Choose a moment when you felt rejected, and instead of blaming the other person, ask yourself, what inside me hurts so much? Write about it. Don't sugarcoat it. Speak to your wounded part as if you were speaking to someone you love, and watch how everything starts to shift. Because the unconscious doesn't heal with pretty quotes. It heals with presence, listening, and responsibility. And from there, you start to rebuild your emotional foundation with truth. And when that foundation changes, the way you move through the world begins to change too, slowly, but with power. Because now, you're no longer hiding behind a shadow. You're starting to dance with it. You can understand everything about your shadow. You can name every wound, every trauma, every pattern. But if you don't have the courage to change the way you act in the world, nothing changes. You know what that turns into? Self-deception culture. You become the kind of person who talks beautifully about self-awareness, but keeps avoiding conflict, blaming others, feeding your own chaos, and playing the victim when the consequences hit. The shadow you claim to have understood starts laughing in your face because it knows you're still dancing to the beat it plays. Integrating the shadow feels like facing a fire with your bare hands. It's when you feel like manipulating but choose to be transparent. When pride screams, but you lower your guard and say, "I was wrong." It's choosing maturity. When everything inside you wants revenge. And let's be honest, that hurts, because it means letting go of excuses, masks, and appearances. It means leaving behind the autopilot of the unconscious and taking the reins of your own life, even with trembling hands. And it's so rare that when it happens, you recognize yourself in the mirror in a way you never have before. Want to turn all of this into real practice? Then stop justifying your reactions as "that's just how I am," and start seeing them as choices. Feel jealousy? Instead of spiraling, write down exactly what you're afraid to lose. Feel envy? Instead of criticizing, study the person you envy. Have pent-up anger? Instead of taking it out on someone, go work out. Scream into a pillow. Write it all in a notebook, then burn it. But do something, because the unconscious only transforms when it meets movement. And it's in that movement that the self starts to take the wheel and shows you in practice what it means to live with purpose, wholeness, and truth. And let me tell you, that changes everything. Everyone wants to be good, to be accepted, praised, loved. But no one tells you that this constant pursuit of goodness can turn you into a fraud. Carl Jung was clear. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. We keep trying to distance ourselves from what's ugly, wrong, negative, as if the real problem were feeling anger, wanting revenge, or having destructive impulses. But do you know what's more dangerous than feeling all that? Pretending you don't. Repressing the darkness doesn't make it disappear. It just lets it control you from the shadows. Accepting the evil within you isn't about surrendering to cruelty. It's about admitting it exists, and precisely because of that, not letting it control you. It's looking at your desire to see someone fail and saying, "This is mine. I need to understand where it comes from." It's feeling the urge to lie and, instead of pretending to be pure, saying, "I want to manipulate this situation, but I choose not to." That is evolution. That is when you stop trying to appear perfect and start being real. And when that happens, something shifts in your gaze. You don't become a saint. You become whole. Want a practical example? When that ugly, shameful, disgusting thought shows up, don't run. Sit with it. Write it down. Name it. I feel hatred because I feel belittled. I want to control because I'm afraid of being rejected. That's what it means to embrace fear. That's what it means to accept the darkness, without letting it define your actions. Because as long as you keep sweeping that side of you under the rug, it will grow in the dark. But the moment you turn on the light, it stops possessing you. And in that exact moment, you start approaching something far more powerful than goodness. Your own humanity. This is the part most people never reach. Because it takes more than understanding the shadow, more than going to therapy, more than studying psychology. It takes walking through fire and coming out the other side whole. Individuation is the process of becoming who you truly are, not who you learn to be in order to survive. It's when the conscious and unconscious stop being silent enemies and start working together. You stop betraying yourself. Stop sabotaging yourself. Stop hating yourself in silence. And for the first time, you feel a strange kind of peace. The peace of being with yourself, without needing to run. This isn't about perfection. The self, your true self, isn't some elevated state of purity. It's raw power, real presence, born when you integrate everything you are. The light, the shadow, the traumas, the gifts, the fears, the contradictions. It's when you no longer have to pretend to be accepted. You simply are. And that's terrifying because it pulls you out of the victim role, rips away your excuses, and puts you face to face with a freedom. That comes hand in hand with the responsibility to choose. You're no longer ruled by the unconscious. You listen to it, welcome it, and still choose with clarity. Want to get closer to this in real life? Then start with simple but deep rituals. Take 10 minutes a day to write, and censored everything your unconscious wants to spill. Meditate not to calm down, but to hear what's hiding behind the noise. Make choices that align with what you truly feel, not with what others expect from you. Individuation doesn't happen all at once. It happens every time you choose to be whole, instead of being nice. And it's there, only there, that life begins to align with a purpose. That wasn't invented. It was revealed. Now tell me, what are you going to do with everything you've just discovered about yourself? Are you going to close this video and pretend nothing changed? Or are you finally going to face that part of you you've always tried to hide? Because understanding the shadow, that's just the beginning. The real leap happens when you start acting differently. Even when you're afraid, even when it's uncomfortable, even when the voice of your old self is screaming for you to go back. Do you have the courage to transform? Or are you going to keep living as an edited version of yourself? Just to be accepted? What haven't you dared to face within yourself? Which part of your darkness still controls your choices? Write it in the comments. Let it out. Name it. Expose it. Because when you share it, you start pulling the shadow out of the dark. And if this video touched something in you that no one else ever reached, subscribe to the channel right now. Turn on the notifications and stick around. Because here, we're not going to teach you how to pretend everything's fine. We're going to teach you how to dive deep so you can finally make peace with who you truly are and live with wholeness, not appearances.